This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Veterans, do you take medication? At VA, prescriptions have a range of copay levels, from free to $5, $8, or $11 for a 30-day prescription, depending on your eligibility. Refill by mail, in person, or on VA's mobile app. Sign up at va.gov or call 1-800-MyVA411.
All I know is war. All I know is shoot. All I want is more, but I got some things to do. I'm a dog of war. Hell's what I've been through. I'm a dog of war. I did it all for you. I'm a soldier, I'm a warrior. Got an emblem on my cover. And ask me what I did for ya. I put the trash deep down under. Yeah, I'm a dog of war. Hell's what I've been through. I'm a dog of war. I did it all for you, yeah.
Took some time in the place, man, I just needed some space. Saw the pain show in my face and my heart starts to race. Been a brother.
Oh, brother, please let us know for last thoughts, our listeners live and on podcast.
All right, we know that I do joke quite often about my attempted escapes from the psych ward, but in all seriousness, the psych ward gang is seriously my idea of representing the military. Representing mental health in the military community. So if you happen to run into any type of mental health crisis or emergency, do not be ashamed nor afraid to dial 988, press option 1. Again, just as I had to do when I was in a moment of crisis, do not be ashamed nor afraid to dial the digits 988, then press option 1 if you find yourself in a similar mental health crisis. Hello. Welcome to the show. This is episode 76 of the WarDawg Trail podcast. I have an amazing guest for you today. But before I bring him on, let's go over some announcements. All right. This show airs every day right here on MBR Radio. That is Military Broadcast Radio. Every day from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. You can download the MBR Radio app and hear this podcast or any of the past podcasts that have already been broadcast. All right. Remember, Sergeant WarDawg TV is your source for military, hunting, and outdoors TV with swag. This year, we won 2 awards, 2 global awards. The first was from Corporate Livewire, based in the UK. We won Veteran Support Nonprofit Organization of the Year. Next, from Acquisition International Magazine, we won Leading Veteran Welfare Outreach Nonprofit Organization. As an update, I have finished my book and submitted it to publishers. So, just like this podcast is titled The WarDawg Trail, the book is also entitled The WarDawg Trail. It highlights my 3 tours in Iraq as a U.S. Marine Infantry Rifleman from the very first day of the Iraq War. I will get back to you as soon as I have any information on a release date. Next, my nonprofit, Camp Doghouse, is a homeless war veterans camp in Central Florida. It's now up, and you can check it out at campdoghouse.org. Please check us out. Try to see what we're trying to do to help the homeless veteran situation in Central Florida. All right. You can always check me out. Check out my website, sergeantwardawgtv.com, or check me out on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram as Sergeant WarDawg TV. Now on X, you can find me under Sergeant War. All right. Remember, I am a co-host on DV Radio and have been for several years now. We are live with their Barracks Talk podcast every Saturday night at 8 p.m. So if you want to joke like you did in the barracks, have a good time, and be free to talk like you did when you were active and you were living in the barracks, come check us out at dvradio.net. My second podcast, Bullets, Blades, and Hooks, is a podcast that interviews veteran nonprofit organizations that take veterans into the outdoors. So whether that's hunting, camping, fishing, or shooting, Bullets, Blades, and Hooks interviews the nonprofits that take veterans out to partake in these activities. I am a brand ambassador for Reaper Apparel Co. So you can use my code, Sergeant WarDawg TV, for 10% off of your entire order. All right, Peace for Warriors. This is an organization that takes veterans to volunteer around the world. I will be joining Peace for Warriors in March of 2024 when they head to the Philippines to work on a school in a village just north of the Subic Bay. You can find out more information at peaceforwarriors.org. All right, SHOT Show. For you SHOT Show fans, this year Sergeant WarDawg TV does have a media pass. So we will be on the showroom floor interviewing people and bringing you the latest and greatest in weapons, hunting, and outdoors gear. Also, we have been invited to Range Day at the SHOT Show. So we've been invited by Glock, Radiant Weapons, Horizon Firearms, Cadix Defense, and Mitchell Defense. And we will be at their range days firing their new weapons and bringing you that exclusive footage. We are now media members of NSSF, the National Shooting Sports Foundation, which actually owns and runs SHOT Show. And we will soon be members of POMA, the Professional Outdoor Media Association. If you are a predator hunter, if you like to hunt coyotes and wild hogs at night, this game caller, the Helion Plus from Ecotech, is your next option that you need to check out. This is a game changer in the predator hunting world. All right. If you're interested in advertising on Sergeant WarDawg TV or on the WarDawg Trail podcast, these are the outlets that you can catch the video on or listen to the audio on, and in which your products will be advertised on. If you're interested in advertising with us, visit our website, sergeantwardawgtv.com. All right. This is the WarDawg Trail podcast. I am your host, Sergeant WarDawg, and without further ado, I bring to you our guest for the day, Black Powder Podcast. To go ahead and unmute. All right. Welcome to the show, boss.
Hey, appreciate it, man. It was a struggle trying to get everything right, but I'm glad I finally figured out a solution.
All right. Same here. I'm glad as well. Now I look to you as a great podcaster and a great gun enthusiast. If you don't mind, can you start us off by talking about your love for firearms or what got you started in the 2A industry?
Well, my story isn't really as glamorous as everybody else's. There's a lot of people that took a lot of interest in firearms simply because they wanted to. I had the unfortunate experience of falling on the opposite side of that, where people actually needed to get a firearm for protection. Back in 2017, I was going through a really, really crazy, jacked up divorce, and I wasn't sure if my ex's family was going to do anything crazy. So the first purchase I made that actually opened the door for me to get more involved in the 2A community was Mossberg Maverick 88. Just a basic entry level shotgun for home protection. And since then, it's just, this happened back in 2020. But since then, with all the things that have been going on, especially in the Black community, as far as firearm purchases, I think we were 80% of firearm purchases back in 2020, with most of those being firearm purchases first time for women. So in my mind, I started thinking we really need to get some sort of representation. We need to get some sort of, positive faces in the Black community to try and portray the knowledge correctly. I always try to approach it from an aspect of somebody who isn't a professional, but somebody who's still going through their journey and picking up skills and trying to learn the proper way to do things. And in turn, I try and turn that around and apply that to the Black community. So that's ultimately what got me involved. And since then, it's just, it's brought me back down to more of a pathway of wanting to learn how to do safety things and things involving proper prepping and, just further my education as far as skills that I hadn't really touched in a long time since I was in Boy Scouts years ago.
All right. I like that. Now, tell me, is there a story behind the name Black Powder Podcast? Or not a story, but I mean a meaning. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. My podcast, now granted, is mainly Black focusing, but it doesn't just, cut off there and say, like some people on social media say, oh, you can't go do X, Y, and Z because it's for Black people only. Like, nah, that's not what it is, because the 2A community is made up of multiple races and backgrounds and cultures of people. Mine is geared towards Black people mainly. So the name Black Powder comes from, now granted, they don't use black powder in rounds anymore, but a long time ago, black powder was used in firearms. So I took that and I also apply that as a play on, because my podcast is mainly Black focused and the people I'm trying to reach out to are Black people. So in a sense, my listeners are the powder that provides the force, if you will, to keep me going and to keep me producing these episodes.
Oh,
that's why
snaps. I like that.
Yeah, my catchphrase is the primer's hit, the powder's lit. So basically, the primer being me, anytime I put out an episode, it ignites the powder, and then essentially, the bullet at the end of the brass gets ejected out. It's being forced out, which in a sense is like forcing the knowledge out. And my target is the negative portrayal of Black people in media, because in Black society, we have the unfortunate opinion due to the media that, or not even the opinion, the stereotype. We have an unfortunate stereotype that basically says Black people plus firearm equals negative, equals gangster, equals something that's not real. When in all actuality, you got black people out there that are just trying to protect their family, their friends, their loved ones, just like everybody else who's involved in this community. So that's the general breakdown of the history of the name.
Right on, bro. Right on. All right. I like that, man. That's well thought out, brother. That's I really like that. That is really well thought out, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
All right. Now let's talk about like just as you said, what you've seen in the media and the portrayal of black gun ownership and what you would like to see.
What I see in the media when it comes to black people is a lot of the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is, you come around something that you're not, and I may be getting this definition mixed up a little bit, but essentially it's like you come around something that you've only brushed up as far as knowledge, like the general tip of the iceberg, if you will, but you think you're all the way at the bottom. So you're over here giving out all sorts of knowledge and insight that you don't really have. So you make yourself seem like you're bigger than you really are, at least on, like, let's say, for example, the social media platforms, because you'll have all these channels out there. And, this ain't a diss to the Black Rambo or anything, because, they got the skills to back it up. But you got so many other channels out there that are, jumping on the new hotness, if you will. So, like, for example, when John Wick came out, you had a bunch of channels say such and such Wick, like Lil Durk Wick or something. I don't know, just for example. But they didn't have the skills or the education, even from a minuscule perspective, to back it up. All they're doing is going through that Dunning-Kruger effect and applying the fact that they have a gun and the fact that they've seen John Wick or Rambo or whatever, they combine them together and they think, okay, cool. So now I'm an expert. Like, that's not even the case. And in the media, if you look at movies, television, so on and so forth, the portrayal of black people in firearms isn't exactly one put in a positive light. Because I think even in The Wire, and granted, this is a show I got to go back and see, because after seeing a bunch of reels on YouTube, I'm like, yeah, I missed out on a lot. But from the reels I've seen, you got Omar, and I think, what's his name, brother Mozone, I think his name was. Mozone, yeah, if I remember right. Yeah. He was part of the Nation of Islam, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
he was
in a
killer.
sense, yeah, exactly. Even though he's representing something that's supposed to be shown in a more positive light, just the fact that he's a killer that's part of the Nation of Islam, which in turn is making it seem like that's a gangster association. I mean, it's twisting what's seen in Black society and saying, okay, we're just going to take aspects and characters and turn them into what we want to turn them into. It's almost like the old school samurai movies. It's like a bunch of people see the samurai movies and they never set foot in Japan, never even touched the soil. But all of a sudden they're like, all Japanese people know martial arts and all of them are samurais. Like, no, that's not the case. I always say that the media is literally the fourth branch of government, and they control what we're supposed to think, what we're supposed to feel, how we're supposed to act. But in turn, there's no real logic put behind it. As long as they control what image they want to, they're always going to put forth what's going to benefit them the most, which is in turn for Black society. What benefits the media is portraying Black people and firearms as a negative all the time in general. Even whenever you got like I don't know, like, let's say, I think it was a spinoff of that 24 show, right? I think 24, Kevin Bacon, a long time ago, right?
Yep.
They had one that had a Black protagonist. So he was the good guy. He had military experience. He had the skills and everything. But there you go again by saying, oh, he came from the hood. You know, he's playing around with guns and whatnot, and he figured it'd be better to go into the military so he can actually utilize real guns. And, you know, the whole turning a negative to a positive thing. But why can't he just be somebody that wants to just say, you know what? I'm trying to represent my country. I'm trying to do the right thing because at the end of the day, I got family and friends here. And I know that if I'm out there, I can protect them. I mean, why is it always got to be something negative from the get-go? You know, just start off with a blank slate like everybody else.
Sounds like the stereotypes really piss you off.
I mean, yeah, because it's like, at the end of the day, especially living in today's society, there's no real conversation that actually will get you to learn how the person actually is or understand the struggles that person is going through. Because as long as we got everybody tuning into social media and everything else, there's not going to be any forethought as far as people in general. It's just going to be a preconceived thought process of, you know, this person's over here, they came from the desert, so they act this way, or they came from Alaska, so they act that way. Or, you know, black people come from Africa, so they should be more in tune with African culture, which at the end of the day, from my perspective, I respect the African roots, but I haven't been in Africa since the generations before me. Because now I'm a Black American. It's like a foundational Black American. I've been here. You know, this is my culture now. This is where I come from. So preconceived notions end up with ignorant thoughts from people who don't know any better, such as like, go back to Africa. I can't go back to Africa. Nor am I trying to go back to Africa. This is where I'm at, you know? So stereotypes, especially in our society, you know, our own Black society, stereotypes don't really help build us. If anything, they hurt us even more because, you know, I grew up kind of the nerdy kid. You know, I was the guy that's actually well-spoken. I can articulate what I'm trying to say, you know, not because I'm trying to turn my nose up at people, but because, you know, I went to school, I was educated. That's how I was taught. And, you know, I grew up in around Euless, Texas. I was born and raised in Euless, Texas. HEB hospitals where I was born at, right? You know, I came out of my mama there, so let's keep it real. But, you know, the only downside to being raised there was the fact that I was one of a small handful of Black people. So when you don't have a connection to the culture and then you try and, I guess, reintegrate yourself into the culture, because I think around 2000, the year 2000 and 1998, my dad moved us to Georgia. So going from a high population of white people and being only a small handful of Black people to like a majorly Black state, you know, it was kind of hard to get reintegrated there because I was dealing with stereotypes from my own people. You know, that you'd hear stuff like, oh, you speak white, or you know, you ain't got no swag or whatever else. Then you turn around and the white people in turn are saying the same stuff that the Black people are telling you. So it's like there's no growth on the side that really needs it. If anything, if we can't build ourselves up as Black people, we're gonna get stuck behind. And if you look at where things are at now, I mean, yeah, you've got a lot of our people trying to get more in tune with survival skills, gardening, firearms, so on and so forth. But you still got the majority out there, not even majority, but let's say it's a minority now, right? You got the minority out there saying that I don't understand why you're doing this stuff. This is all white boy stuff, which at the end of the day, it's not. If you go back to caveman times, the culture wasn't trying to be divisive and keep yourself from learning skills. The culture was you got to survive one way or another. So if going out there and killing this woolly mammoth is coming off as quote unquote white boy stuff, or, you know, I guess I'm just going to have to be doing some white boy stuff to eat this mammoth burger and move on with my life. If you're going to keep thinking like that, you know, if people are going to keep thinking like that, the whole Darwinism effect is going to happen, and then they're going to pass on and not have any lineage to pass on whatever knowledge they got too, because they weren't proactive as far as trying to increase their survival with the necessary skills. So, short answer, yeah, I really hate stereotypes. I mean, do I have to live with them? Yeah. Do they bother me as much as they used to? No, because I have more of a firm grip and firm belief in myself as a person, and I'm more familiar with who I am now.
All right. I like that. I really like that. Now, I want to speak on that a little. I do things that have been I do things that I consider to be military, but I have had people make the comments of, "Oh, you're doing things that are white," or this or that. And I got to tell you, if I had that mindset that I can't do something because another race does or does not do it, I wouldn't have been able to make it as a Marine. I wouldn't have been able to step into that fold with, everyone else that's from around the country and around, from different backgrounds and whatnot. And I don't let anything that's viewed as being for a particular race limit me. For instance, I love to hunt wild hogs because it's very similar to what I was doing in Iraq, using night vision and using thermal vision. If that comes off to the general black population as being a white thing, I could care less, because as long as I get to do what I love and I enjoy, that's what all that matters. I have been in that position to where, I held back from doing certain things growing up because it was perceived as being white or black. But as an adult, I could care less, man. Like, I would rather partake in that activity and learn that skill set, and get that satisfaction of knowing I'm doing what I enjoy, as opposed to catering to the mass attitude that it happens to be, white or any other kind of race, as pertained to any other kind of race. I don't let any kind of talk or think like that slow me down. I mean, if that's the case, you and I both as podcast hosters wouldn't have a podcast, right?
You're right about that.
You know what I mean? It'd be like, even doing the podcast is something that's not, right for us. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to make that known and put that out there, that I don't believe in letting things limit you because someone says it's not for your race to do, or it's uncommon for you and your race to do that. I really don't dig that, or don't agree with that.
Well, there's actually, and I've never served in the military. I don't have a whole lot of military skills, but all of my stuff is coming from just my perspective, as far as like logically trying to understand the world that we live in. So I wanted to make that known before I even say this next part, because if you go back into history, you ever hear the 48 Laws of Power?
Of course, bro.
So Hannibal, being from Carthage, technically makes him black, right? He was utilizing tactics that the Romans could not counter. Now, if that mindset that we're talking about was applied to the Romans would have lost. They never would have beaten Hannibal. It took a Roman soldier to sit down and study the tactics of Hannibal and apply those same tactics against him to finally beat him. That's the biggest thing that people who are stuck in a stagnant mindset will never understand. Because if I think we might have talked about this a while ago. If you sit here and listen to one type of music, then you're only one-dimensional, and the only thing you're going to understand is that one genre, versus the person who's got an ear for everything, and they can tell you about so many different types of music and how they might interweave or overlap. I mean, it just makes you a better person, and in turn, that makes more people want to talk with you, because you're an interesting, cultured individual. You can't be cultured if you're only stuck in one viewpoint, I think even The book is called Hagakure. It translates to hidden underneath the leaves or hidden under leaves. It's a book written by God, what's his name? His name was Sunitomo. He was a samurai who never fought in battle, but he wrote the whole samurai book of honor, if you will, that dictated how a samurai is supposed to act. And even in his book, it tells you that anyone who was stuck in the old ways, I can't remember the exact quote, but basically it translates to anybody stuck in the old ways will never move forward and prosper. They'll fade away. And I'm pretty sure you can look at Sun Tzu, and there's even knowledge about that in his books as well. So it's almost like a human skill, if I dare say human survival skill, to pick up what's necessary in order to move forward and make sure that the future prospers.
Right on. Right on. Right on. If you don't mind, I forgot to ask you, how long have you been doing your podcast?
So I started my podcast on September 11th in 2020. And it was kind of a struggle because, 2020, there was a lot going on, whether people wanted it or not. And I was still going through the whole divorce process. 1 minute I thought, okay, cool, I can move forward with all this stuff. Then the next minute it's like, nope, come on back. You got to go spend this money with these people. So I haven't really been able to put out as many episodes as I would have liked. Ironically enough, before I started the Black Friday podcast, I was doing a podcast called WarDawg Radio, which at the time was geared towards gaming and media, movies, so on and so forth. But eventually, I transformed WarDawg Radio into a platform that I now play alongside the Black Friday podcast. And the platform is based on, I guess you could say, for lack of a better description, male positivity. We don't really get, especially from social media, but we as men do not get the tribal uplifting, if you will, from other men. Excuse me, not other men, from society in general, because if anything happens, for the most part, they're going to look at it and say, okay, cool. So, we're going to focus on women. Good example is, it was, I believe it was last year, 2022, after the George Floyd protest and riots, they were like, okay, cool. So all this matters now. So here's what we're going to do for Black society. We're going to give grants to Black women who are trying to open a business. And sidebar, that's another reason why I started, why I turned WarDawg Radio into a men's platform, because when it comes to other societies, they don't look at those genders separately. They look at it like, okay, cool, we're going to support Asian culture. We're going to support Asian society. We're going to support African society. We're going to support Hispanic society. But when it comes to Black society, they split it down the middle. So they're like, okay, cool, we're going to support Black women. And it's crickets when it comes to Black men. So that's one main reason why WarDawg Radio is focused on Black men, because nobody is, not just Black men, men in general. It's a Black platform, but it does focus on men in general. Nobody's giving us a bailout, and that's just when it comes to men in general. Nobody gives us a bailout. We got to do it ourselves. We got to stand 10 toes down and fight whatever is the antagonist at the time and try and overcome it, even though we might not have everything that's necessary. And there's dudes that come out on the other side and are like, yeah, I did it. But there's also a mindset of, oh, I'm alpha, I can do this, I can do that. You can't do anything like that. You're beta, so on and so forth. That in turn is splitting our male society apart to the point where we cannot build like we're supposed to, because the men are supposed to be the builders of any culture no matter what, just like they're supposed to be the protectors of the culture no matter what. But when you don't have the necessary platform or the necessary input whatever terminology you'd like to use to receive that, you really start to alienate yourself from that tribal mentality. And by tribal, I mean, a long time ago, we're going back to the caveman period. You can even go to like civilizational period later on down the road, whatever. But as long as there was a fire, there was a sense of, I guess you could say, male community. Because during hunting, you couldn't hunt the animal all day. And if it was a big animal that was going to benefit the village, you might have to take a break. So that fire gets popped out. You got men all around the campfire. The men are speaking amongst themselves. There's a council of men that are supporting each other to the point where everybody was on code. Everybody knew what to do. And if somebody doubted themselves, that council of men would help lift them up. Everybody was basically on the even playing field. So there was no weak points. It was almost like a phalanx, a Spartan phalanx, Everybody linked up, put their shields up. If there was a threat against them, they'd make way for one soldier to go ahead, thrust that spear out, close the phalanx until the threat was said and done. So now, in modern society, we're not really getting that. There's a higher chance of men actually being more alienated from that positive tribal mentality, to the point where if you look at the suicide rates over the years, the highest rate of suicide is amongst men. And I believe it's also amongst black men especially. And you would think that media would be like, oh, God, the rate of men is declining. You don't hear a peep. Even in divorce situations, right? If something happens to a woman, there's so many places she can go to. There's so many shelters she can go to that are specified towards women. But when it comes to men, if my numbers are still correct, unless it's changed over the years, at one point there was only one, maybe two men's shelters out there that a man could go to if he was down in his luck and was trying to get back on his feet. So, that's where that's basically what got me back into podcasting and trying to combine those two platforms, or put them side by side.
All right. You brought.
I know I said a lot, man.
Oh, no. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you spoke your mind and you informed the people, bro. That's what this is all about. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to come and share with us and come and speak, man. What can we expect from you in the future?
In the future, I'm definitely trying to get more interviews with a lot more people. I really want to get, my goal for next year is to find right now black couples or just black people in general that have had like military experience, or they've got experience in gardening, survival skills. If they're a couple, one of my focuses on with them is like, how did y'all do it? How did y'all stay together for so many years? I'm not talking about somebody who's like, oh, we've been together for 5 years. Okay, cool. You've only moved your piece on the board at least 5 spaces. You ain't even made it past boardwalk yet. You just like, you still in the slums. So 5 years ain't gonna cut it. I'm looking for couples who have been together like, I don't know, let's say 10, 15 years and have been holding it down, because my main reason for that is to kind of go against the grain whenever it comes to that whole gender divide, like I was talking about earlier. Because say, for example, YouTube, right? You got a lot of red pill channels, blue pill channels, pink pill channels, whatever. Everybody's taking some sort of pill, but they're only medicating the issues. They're not trying to find a way to find a solution to it. It's just, you got a lot of people taking medication nowadays, in general, to the point where the end result isn't really them trying to deal with their problems. It's them running away from their problems. And, if you need the medication, that's one thing. But if you're just taking it because it's easier to take the medication, you're not going to find a problem. And that's why I'm looking at black couples like, okay, cool. we have the lowest rate of marriage in our society. How do we solve that? What was the secret that kept y'all together? What kept y'all pushing? You know, how can we get more people to link up in Black society and actually get back to what the nucleic Black family used to look like? And also, part of the whole couples thing is like, so y'all been together for 25 years, you've had your kids, you got your grandkids. How did you build generational wealth? What was your secret? How did you do it? What routes did you take? And I'm all a fire experience too.
All right. All right. Look, I really want to thank you for, like I said, for joining me today and hitting us with your insights. If people want to find you online, can you tell them where they can find you? Uh-oh.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, you came back.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Sorry about that. What was the last thing you said?
Oh, well, for people if people want to find you online, where can they look?
So that's where it gets a little interesting because apparently I'm not the only Black Powder podcast. So if you're looking for me in general, you can go on Facebook and look for Black Powder Podcast. I'll be on there. I'm the one that's got this logo right here, the logo of, I guess you could say it's like a Reaper wearing a green hood with red hand wraps. You know, that's me. On X or Twitter, you can look for Black Powder PC. I'll show up on there. I'm also Black Powder Podcast on Instagram, Black Powder Podcast on YouTube. I'm really happy about that because I've gotten all my episodes uploaded. So finally, you know, if you don't have time to go to Spotify or Amazon Music, Google Podcast, any other of the main platforms out there to listen to me, you can always click on YouTube, play me in the background. And the main site I'm on is rss.com/podcast/BPP. And email wise, you can hit me up at blackpowderpodcast@gmail.com because I'm still working on the official website and everything. But, you know, for now, it's going to have to do.
All right. Well, that's what's up, boss. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
Yeah, man. I mean, I know some of what I have said might seem like it's divisive or something, especially from the men's point of view. But end of the day, that's really all I got, you know, because I'm a man. I'm not gonna sit down and just ignore everything that's going on in society, especially whenever, you know, we're kind of being put into the dirt or just ignored. You know, there's a lot of people that might say that's not true and whatnot, and I can respect their opinion. You know, if they're living a good life, cool. I'm not faulting that. I'm not insulting. But there's a lot of other people out there that need some help. And at the end of the day, if we as society in general, like I said earlier, can look at their perspective and see where they're coming from and actually say, hey, you know, we need to fix that so we can start moving forward and doing better things. That's the goal I'm looking for. It might seem like a fool's errand or whatever, but it is what it is. But at the end of the day, especially regarding firearms and safety and education, so on and so forth, you know, I want to see Black people in general rise up and get to a better platform. Because as a father right now, I've got a daughter that I want to leave behind a better world than what I've got right now. And honestly, you can't do that unless you're willing to look at a problem and say it needs to be solved. It's like my mentor used to say, you know, you're the best and brightest the world has to offer. And if you want to change something, you got to change it directly. You can't just look at it and say, when is somebody going to change this? So that's where I'm coming from, man. I really appreciate you for having me on this platform. I hope I didn't talk too much. I mean, I know it's kind of back and forth. I did have some good coffee, so.
Oh, no, you're great, bro. You're great. That's what this is all about, man. Being able to speak your mind, speak your piece, bro.
Yeah, I definitely definitely want to do it again, man. And I know we're gonna hook up in the future, so we definitely gonna make it work.
All right, I can hear you on that, bro. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 76 with Black Powder Podcast here on the WarDawg Trail. I want to thank you again for coming on the show, boss. And yeah, we will be linking up again in the future to have you on again. All right.
Hey, most definitely, and thank you again for having me, man.
All right. You have a good one now. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, brother. Stay safe.
All right.
All I know is war. All I know is shoot. All I want is more, but I got some things to do. I'm a dog of war. Hell's what I've been through. I'm a dog of war. I did it all for you. I'm a soldier, I'm a warrior. Got an emblem on my cover. And ask me what I did for ya. I put the trash deep down under. Yeah, I'm a dog of war. Hell's what I've been through. I'm a dog of war. I did it all for you. Yeah.
Took some time in the place, man. I just needed some space. Saw the pain show in my face, and my heart starts to.
That's the show for today, everyone. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with an all-new show. And remember, you can listen to us again and again. The podcast of this radio show is available right after we go off the air tonight, anywhere that you can get your podcast episodes. And thanks for joining us today. I'd like to take a moment to talk about something close to my heart. Military Broadcast Radio is doing incredible work to support our veterans and bring their voices to the world. They rely on your generous donations and your dedicated volunteer hours to make it happen. I encourage you to consider supporting NBR in any way, form that you can. Use this QR code that's attached to the picture, or you can go to our website at mbradio.us. That's Mike Bravo Radio.us to learn more about how you can donate or volunteer even just an hour a week from your home. Help make a difference in the lives of our veterans, because once again, we're all here for you and not for us. We're giving our veterans a voice.